Hello and welcome back to Pilates with Marilyn. My name is Marilyn Harder. I'm a Pilates instructor and Pilates master trainer. Today, in episode 10, we are going to focus in on our deep gluteus medius and the deep rotators of our hip to help with better alignment of our femurs, knees, low back. Also, for those who are already in awesome alignment, this will lift and shape those glutes. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. All you're going to need today is your mat and gravity. So let's go ahead and lay down onto our side and find our side lying alignment position. So I'm going to come all the way down to the mat, making sure that my head, center of the ear, shoulder, rib, hip, and heels are in one nice long alignment. Now I want you to, if your arm underneath your head, either straight down or folded under is not for you, remember you can always do these standing that we talked about in episode 1, 2, and 3. All right, squaring things up, we're gonna down slip the hip, letting that top oblique elongate it. And now I want you to reach the crown of the head in opposite direction so that bottom rib cage will lift. Hand stacks in front of the rib cage to make sure that the ribs are drawn in. Hand comes behind the low back. If you would like to stack yourself up against the wall will hold you accountable. All right, we're going into our clams, starting right off into that activation. So let's take our first Pilates breath. Big inhale in through the nose. Exhale, blow out all the air. Feel that transverse abdominis. That's that corset around the midsection. Solidify and connect. Now we're gonna float that bottom leg up without rolling the hips forward. And we're gonna activate through that inner thigh. Top heel rests on that bottom heel. And we're gonna start to lift that top knee. Now, as you lift and lower, remember we want to lift and elongate open. So I'm actively opening my leg up. Now, if your hips like to roll back like mine do on my scoliosis side, I like to take my hand and stack behind me. Again, if you don't have the range of motion with your shoulder, you can instead stack yourself up against that wall or use any of the support systems we talked about with that washcloth underneath that rib and hip. Good. Continue to move. Focus on really connecting through that glute. Use that muscular activation to engage. Allow that knee to lift. Remember, we want the work to be felt into the corner of that glute, into that deep glute med. You've got it. We've got several more. My goal here, we're going to be doing 2 sets on each side, is to take the glute med to a comfortable fatigue. Now, if any time you start to feel other muscles take over, you want to take a break, come back to it, so that way we can take it into that specific space. Good. We'll go ahead and go one more. Now I want you to hold it open, reconnect. We're just pausing with it open. Bottom heel is really lifting up into that top heel to activate that deep inner thigh. We want to make sure that we're square, and I want you to do tinier little lifts. Now, it's not a pulse per se, because pulsing tends to be activation then release. Think of it as a small range activation up, small range resistance down. Small range movement help deepen the connection within that space. You've got it. We've got a few more. Make sure you're not curling forward to look at your legs. Elongate that neck. Remember, a mirror in front of you, just to keep yourself honest, is really helpful. We'll go ahead and go last one, and then we'll lower it all the way down. Bottom leg can stay bent, top leg extends. We've talked about other progressions. You can always elongate that top or that bottom leg and move it forward. As long as the top leg is elongated within your body range, you can go all the way elongated in one straight line, wherever you have the stability. So during this time, we're still hovering, flexing through that foot. Make sure that bottom rib has not relaxed. We want to be in a plank, and we're going to lift and lower. Now, our range of that lift and lower is only as high as we can go without letting the hips or that pelvic bowl sink. So as you can see, I have a little bit of a side bend here. Don't want that. I want the femur, the long bone of the leg, to move independent of that pelvis. So you do you. If you're having a hard time feeling that glute med engagement, slightly roll the knee up towards the ceiling. You might be a little internally rotated like I am. Good. Remember, the neck wants to help, so we want to try and keep it drawn in to activate those deep neck flexors and as relaxed as possible on the side part of that neck. Good. Remember, it's called a Pilates practice for a reason, not Pilates perfection. So if for any reason you're not feeling it in the right place or you need to stop and pause, go for it. We'll go ahead and go one more. Now I want you to pause there. Really reach it away. Crown of the head reaches the other direction. I want you to imagine, if you've done it before, in the reformer with your foot in the strap. We're going to do a sideline bend and stretch. So we're going to start to sweep that knee forward. The goal again is to keep that pelvic bowl stacked, so without dipping, and that leg on the exact same level as if we're bending and stretching. Imagine the resistance that you would have felt in that strap. If you have an elongated leg like myself and are finding you're having a hard time stabilizing, just bend that knee in. It creates a kickstand and a stability for your body. All right, that's number 3. Elongate it out, hold it there, really reach in 2 directions, and let's give them tiny little 1-inch lifts. Whew, I'm definitely feeling this work. For me, I'm going to take that leg behind me, slightly opening that hip and deepening that glute med, glute max connection and that hip opening or hip extension. We've got 3 and 2 and 1. Ready for a stretch. Let's go ahead and roll over onto our back. Give ourselves a figure 4 stretch, crossing that ankle over the other knee, giving ourselves a nice good release. Before we move to the other side, we're going to warm up our abdominals, but I'm sure you already saw that coming. All right, last good deep breath. Let's go ahead and place our hands down by our sides, flip the palms up, get those shoulder blades back and down. Exhale out completely, feeling the rib cage draw against the shoulder blades, and knees come up into that tabletop position. We want to draw the belly down, elongating the spine into imprint. I'm going to keep the head down as we begin, and we're going into a single leg stretch with the head down. Extend one leg out. I want you to elongate it out, and imagine that leg is floating. We want to have enough connection that the leg feels light, and then slowly switch. Pause once you're in tabletop, and the goal is to keep everything active. Good, we're going to go one more pair. So keeping the head down really works our endurance of our abdominal muscles, the full rectus abdominis, rib cage to the lower pubic bone. And then in chest lift, we engage and we feel that burn. All right, let's pull the knees in a little tighter. I want that tailbone reaching away, hands on top of the shins, chest lift up. As you pull yourself into that chest lift, try and pull yourself up 1 more inch past the sticky point into that low back. Deep double chin. Now we're going to hang on to that left knee only, extend the right. Now hanging on, you can pull in, both hands on top, deep double chin, same feeling of elongation, and slowly switch. Now as you continue to move, if you want to take it into that full original movement, left hand is on the outside to that left ankle, right hand on the knee. I'm pulling in for that stretch, nose to knee, and switch. Every time the knee comes in, it's a time for me to create oppositional connection to deepen the abdominal work. So don't think of it as a stretch and rest. It's a stretch and deepen. Last pair. Deep double chin. And last one. Bring both knees in. If you need to set the head down, do it. Pull yourself up. Make sure you're not rocking the tailbone off. Tailbone is anchored. Deepen the abdominals so the low shoulder blades come off. Wrap your hands back behind your head, elbows wide. Now on the exhale, we're going to extend those legs out or up to where we can maintain. Rolling to a Pilates V. Remember, we want to stay imprinted. The legs should feel light and not heavy. Inhale, draw it in. This is where your practice is today. Come up just a little bit more at the rib cage. Don't judge it. Allow it to be what it is. I like to imagine my heels are sliding across the table, and then they're drawing back in, trying to stay on a relative level. And exhale, one more, total of 3. Go as low as you can possibly go without losing that imprint. Draw it all the way back in. Set the head down. Give yourself a little circle on the ceiling. And the other direction. Let's elongate those legs all the way out. We're going to a roll up so we can switch to the other side. Okay, heels are digging in towards the mat, engaging the glutes. I like to make sure I can feel my hamstrings. Neutral spine, no imprint. Imprint will help you get stuck. Inhale there. Exhale, chest curl up, chest lift up. Engage the glutes. Try and stick your tailbone out in opposition. Deep C curve coming up and over. And then we will restack it back up. Nice and elongated and tall. Let's go ahead and swivel the legs around to the other side and even ourselves out. All right, coming into that side lying position, just like we did on the other side, stack the head in line with the rib cage in line with that pelvic bowl. Pulling the ribs in, hips are stacked, heels in line with the tail. Now activating that bottom inner thigh, just making sure that those hips didn't roll with you. And now we're going to lift and elongate that top knee open. Remember, we always want to hold space in oppositional direction, meaning that tailbone goes one way, crown of the head goes the other. I realized I was slightly off and needed to make the adjustments. So when I imagine my body in space, because I am hypermobile, I have to think about how the bones stack. One of the greatest cues that I use for other hypermobile clients like myself is imagining the bottom bowl of the rib cage 360 degrees around, stacking over the top bowl of our pelvis, and keeping those two in alignment by drawing in the abdominals, making sure that the tailbone is reaching to the heels, pubic bone is drawing up, and we're focusing and almost zipping up that deep low belly. And if all of that sounded like foreign language to you, you're not wrong. Body connection and alignment is a lot like learning Spanish. You've got to start with the basics, allow your mind and body to connect in through the movement, and just know that the longer you practice, the more you're going to be aware of these things in space. And that awareness is the ultimate goal. It's going to make you carry your body better in all areas of your life. Woo! Starting to feel that burn deep in that deep rotators of the hip and gluteus medius. And we'll go ahead and go one more pause there. Make sure that bottom heel is lifting up into that top knee. The pelvic bowl is reaching away. Shoulders and rib cage or crown of the head reaching the other. And we'll go up an inch, resist down an inch. Whew. All of the resetting of alignment is what allows us to deepen again. Our body is really excellent at escaping the work, so we've got to continually be mindful of those connections. Whew, you've got it. And we've got about 4 more. Ribs are drawn in, stacked over that pelvic bowl. And last one, it's starting to get melty a little bit. Good, go ahead and rest it down. Now, extend that top leg. Remember, we have different places you can be. Bottom kickstand, top, bottom kickstand, straight leg, or straight in one long alignment. I'm gonna even out the way I did the other side. Relaxing my neck, giving myself that double chin, pulling in the rib cage. Pelvic bowl is stacked under the ribs, reaching that foot away, going into that lift and lower. Be mindful not to allow those hips to tip. Focus in on those glutes. I find that self-touch or hands-on corrections to yourself will bring more awareness to your body. So it's the kinesthetic connection that allows for more neurological, meaning more neurons, to fire where you are in space. You can increase this even more by adding a visual, aka looking in the mirror. For me, I look into the camera, see my reflection. So the neurological, kinesthetic, and visual fields create longer lasting awareness and connection in your body. It's science, friends. Woo. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go a few more. Then we're going into that bend and stretch for 3. So last one. All right, now find that elongation, that alignment. And let's go ahead, and I already can tell I'm gonna be off stable, so I'm gonna bend my knee. We're gonna bend the top knee forward. And then press it away. Imagine there's resistance. You're trying to push a wall away from you. And end with a glute engagement, hip extension. Good. Extension just means open the hinge. Don't let that front of that hip stay closed. Hip extension. Whew. I think about where my tailbone reaches, where that pelvic bowl is in relationship to my ribcage bowl. And we'll go last one. Good. And let's go ahead and hold it there. Remember, we have one more set of tiny little pulses. Just holding your legs statically in space takes a toll. So let's go up an inch, down an inch. We're building endurance. So there is a difference between power and strength as well as endurance. So there's power in big movements for a short period of time. There's endurance in static hold, and make sure you open up that hip, take it back behind you a little bit more, and small movements over a long period of time. Last 2. I'm ready for that stretch. Go ahead and bring it on in. All right, roll over onto your back. Let's release that other gluteus medius. Finding that figure 4 stretch. I like to flex my foot. It helps protect the knee. And we're going to go one more good deep, slow breath here. And if that's it for you today, this is a great natural stopping space. Otherwise, we're going to roll into a roll up. Take those hands up over your head, shoulders draw back and down, rib cage stays close. Inhale here. Exhale, chest lift up. Make sure your glutes are engaged. You're not rolling into imprint. I like to almost imagine that tailbone is reaching out in opposition, diving it up and over, and restack it. Back up nice and tall. Let's roll over into a quadruped position. So if you remember from last time, quadruped is hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. We want to roll to the pinky side of the hand, hug the back of that armpit down towards the hips, draw in the abdominals, and imagine that your back is nice and flat like a tray. All right, we're going into a hover. Curl your toes under. Even if you don't lift off the earth, try and activate. Okay, without overly thinking it, press down through those hands, press down through the toes, squeeze the buns, and see if you can float those knees up. Good. For me, as a hypermobile client, I want to make sure I'm not locking my elbows forward. I keep them slightly soft and roll towards my ribs. Try and get that back of that armpit driving forward. We're going to go hold it 4 and 3, 2, and 1. Lower it on down. Good. Let's go ahead and point those toes underneath you to take away some of that stability. We're going into that opposite arm leg extension we did last time. Shift our left leg back, point through the toe, let that toe touch down and square up the hips. Take that right arm forward, tap to the floor. Good. Now I want you to think about engaging the back glute, opening up that hip, and thumb up towards the ceiling, shoulder blade sliding down. Good. I want you to just hold this. Reach in opposition. Pull the rib cage in. See if you can feel that straight line. Toe to the crown of the head, fingertips towards the hips. And let's hold that for 2 and 1. Draw it on in. Good. Reset. Notice if your hips had to shift to come back to center like mine. That's okay. That's just our ultimate goal, is to fix that. All right, taking the other toe out behind us. Square the hips off. Don't let that hip stay rolled up. Press into the pinky side of that hand. Arm comes forward. Think crown of the head to the toe, fingertips to the hip bowl, pelvic bowl. So that way it's two long lines reaching in opposition. Rib cage pulls in. Good. And I want you to really reach. You may have noticed I made some adjustments, or not, because you're working. I like to periodic peek at myself, because where I imagine myself in space as a hypermobile client is often not where I'm at. Hold it for 3, 4, 2, pull the rib cage in, and 1, bring it on in. All right, let's go ahead and find a nice wide knee child's pose, walking those hams forward, and take a good deep breath into that back body. All right, we're gonna finish off today in some kneeling side kick. So kneeling side kick, you can actually come down to that same body position we used on the other side or the first set and come into that side lying position. However, if you have progressed in your movement, I'm gonna introduce the kneeling position. Okay, knees under hips, hips under shoulders. Arms are out to a T. The goal is hip extension here, so keeping those hips forward. And I'm gonna do a little side cartwheel, tapping the opposite leg out, bringing that hand down to the earth, and if you notice, I'm slightly rotated open. So I'm doing that so that way you can see you've got to press and reach fingertip to fingertip. I want to drop my ribs into the work. As I drop my ribs, you'll see that that toe lifts in opposition. And the goal is to keep that hip press forward. Now I have a little disassociation with my hips. Shallow acetabulum, which is the hip joint. So mine doesn't fully open, and that's okay. My goal is just to roll that knee open as far as possible. Okay, flexing through that foot, we're just gonna explore. So we're gonna start sweeping that leg forward without letting it drop in space, only as far as you can go without losing your connections. And then draw it back in line. My rib wants to lift, drop, rib, drop. Good, and let's go ahead and take it forward again. I'm bringing my hand to my hip to draw in awareness, pressing into the pinky side of that hand, and I'll go one more. These are very hard. And let's bring that knee in, and we're gonna stack back up. Now don't judge where you're at. I don't judge where I'm at. Just know it's a practice, not perfection. Tailbone drops to the floor, abdominals drop in, and we're gonna hinge back into a knee stretch, or a thigh stretch rather. So as we hinge back, I want you to try and keep everything in alignment, crown of the head, shoulders, pelvis to knee. My right knee kicked out just a little bit. I gotta pull it on in, center my weight. And let's restack it back up. Nice and tall, shoulders back and down, deep double chin. Rib cage, bowl stays over pelvic bowl. Tailbone drops behind the knees. And I hinge back. So it's not a tuck of the tailbone. It is a centering of the pelvic bowl by orienting the tailbone down. And then restack it back up nice and tall. Whew, let's go ahead and take it to the other side. Arms out to the T, shoulders draw back and down. Let's take that cartwheel, kicking that leg out into opposition. Pressing through the ground, I'm gonna stack my shoulders one over the other, lift my leg, drop my rib cage, elongate toe to the crown of the head. Now, squeezing the bottom glute, trying to open the hip as much as possible, and rolling the knee open to where it will go. Flexing my foot, we're exploring. So this is not the full range of motion or full choreography of this exercise. We are in exploration right now. Don't let your chest roll down like mine. Press down and through the floor. It's harder than you think it's gonna be. So if you're struggling, that's okay. We always want to throw in things that challenge your motion and give yourself that opportunity to continue to reach. All right, let's go ahead and bring it down. Cartwheel back up, and let's have a seat. All right, we are gonna finish just with a little hip stretch, because sometimes a hip cramp or two will come up during that motion. So let's just take a moment to give ourselves a butterfly. We're gonna finish out with some deep abdominal work, and then that will be it for us today. Second natural stopping point. And let's restack it back up nice and tall. Roll over onto our backs. Using our roll down, you can use bent knee or straight legs, reaching those toes in opposition, drawing in the deep abdominals, leading with that abdominal connection and not a lean backwards with the rib cage. Slowly peel it down. Now the ultimate goal is to keep those toes and heels exactly where they are in space and not drawing or dragging towards you. But just know that comes with balance of the musculature and time. I'm slowly rolling down, trying to take my time like butter. Deep double chin. I sort of give myself a duck neck there. And roll it all the way down. All right, hands come down by our sides. We're gonna bend those knees in, create a little bit of space between our shoulders and our hips by kind of walking them away oppositionally. Hands down, float those knees up into tabletop. Let's start with a toe tap. First, a Pilates breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, closing the rib cage, connecting the core. And now glutes are firing to support the weight of the legs, hinging one leg, scoop those abdominals, draw it back up and switch. Deep double chin, ribs are drawn in and down. You've got it. Now the goal here is to feel it in the deep lower 4-pack of the rectus abdominis. These fibers fire independently than the upper 4-pack. So if you can't feel them, push down and try and brace against them. Yep, there's the shake. That's when I know that they're on for me. Last one. And let's go ahead and hold it there. Take those hands back behind our head. Shoulders back and down. Elbows in our peripheral vision. Chest lift up. Pause. Deep double chin. Try and come up 1 more inch at the rib cage. Let's go into a rotational toe tap here. Hinging at one hip, taking that same armpit across towards the opposite hip, keeping the hips anchored and square and center. And switch and rotate. And center. Now you should not be yanking on your head. You should be holding the weight of your head with your mid-back muscles. Think about the elbow reaching away towards the crown of your head more than the opposite elbow and across. 1 more pair. Woo! Feeling that burn right here at the end. Last but not least. Come back to center. Draw the knees in closer, set the head down. All right, finding a connection onto those shins. If you need a little stretch here, take your stretch. Hands on top of those shins. Shoulders draw back and down. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. I'm chest lifting up at my rib cage, not curling my tailbone off. Anchor that tailbone. Good. And then come up 1 more inch on the second exhale. Now that's my goal for you. Try and maintain that deep chest lift here, anchoring the tailbone away. And let's extend those legs up towards the ceiling in a Pilates V. We're going to lower and raise them only as far as you can go without losing the connections. On your exhale, lower them down. Don't lose that chest lift. Focus on where those ribs are touching. Shoulder blades are touching. Draw it back up on the inhale. Your range is your range. Don't judge it. Come up 1 more inch. It's about creating and celebrating those connections, not forcing your body into something it disconnects with because it looks pretty. Good. We'll go ahead and go 1 more. I can feel my scoliosis wanting to disconnect at certain spaces, and I'm not allowing it. Bring those knees in. Set the head down. Set those toes down. Arms are out to a T. Let the knees roll in one direction. Give yourself a spinal twist stretch. Eyes gaze the other. And just release. Now, if this is not right for your body, it causes pain or discomfort, like we've talked about in previous sessions, go into a stretch that feels good to you. Excessive twisting when you have disc issues is not, it's not nice for your body. So let's draw that left hip back down to the earth using the abdominals, and let's go the other side. Using the abdominals for the control as we stretch. Last good deep breath. Now let's draw that right hip down towards the mat, coming back to center. And I'm going to rock myself up to a seated position. You can come up whatever way it feels good to you. And excellent work today. I think this will become one of your favorites. I know it's one of mine. Deep glute med work is what keeps my knees pain-free. So I just encourage you to find the work that's the hardest for you. And those are the things that we need. So the things that we love to hate are the things that we need for our body. So start to draw awareness to those things that you just dread that I do, and focus in on the smaller pieces and parts for a smaller endurance, and build up that strength and power over time. So again, I thank you so much for supporting Pilates with Marilyn. Have an amazing rest of your day and practice self-care. You are worth it.